Well, hello there. In this video I will make a rant about CBR.com's list of Gintama's 10 most hated characters ranked. So, if you saw my previous video, definitely go check out that as well. I've made a tier list of Gintama's best characters, so let's see what CBR did here. While Gintama's characters are almost universally likable, some are more divisive than others. Here are the anime's most hated characters. So, let's cut through the shit. I've already seen this list a few times, so there's Prince Hatan, New Zealand, and Otai as well. These are both on this list, so let's go. It serves as a testament to Hideaki Sorachi's fantastic writing that Gintama, a manga with more than 70 volumes and an anime adaptation spanning 367 episodes, barely has any truly detestable characters. The franchise has a huge roster of recurring personalities, some of which even start out as hateable villains before making the transition to anti-heroes or at least sympathetic antagonists. That said, certain characters are not quite as beloved as others, whether it is by design or not. Gintama has a few personalities who tend to be divisive, if not downright loathed. Here are the anime's least liked characters. Disclaimer: one-off characters will not be considered. Okay, so let's go. So on number 10 they give Prince Hata. Hate is too strong of a word for Prince Hata, who starts out somewhat annoying but gradually grows into Gintama's funniest recurring personalities. His theme song is also brilliant. As funny as Hata becomes, he is an acquired taste and can be especially grating during his debut and earliest appearances. Gintama takes a while to pick up steam, and Hata's obnoxiousness can be especially off-putting. I disagree. He wasn't obnoxious at all, mainly because due to his lack of screen time, in because he only appeared in the first season for like 5, 6 episodes, and then again in the Silver Soul arc. And I really liked the plot twist with his brothers Shijaku and Dragonia, and his backstory I think was great. It made me like him even more, so I don't think he deserves to be on this list. Then again, he's easily one of the most meh characters in Gintama, especially prior to that plot twist. So let's go into number 5. Catherine. So, I mean, I like Catherine, but then again, she's easily my least favorite member of the Otose snack bar, as she's overshadowed by pretty much everyone who works there. Even I'd say Sadaharu and uh, I'd say also Sadaharu and even Tama and Otose herself. For a character who lasts practically for the entire run, Catherine does not really accomplish much. A former cat burglar who starts fresh at Otose's snack shop, Catherine is typically depicted as abrasive, arrogant, and intentionally off-putting, along with rarely serving much of a purpose other than to act as Otose's shadow. Catherine's humor is typically boils down to a funny accent and poking fun at her less than attractive design. Her shtick gets old quickly. So I kind of agree with this, but then again, she's not a bad character at all. She's just meh. So, as you may have seen earlier, yes, Nobume's number 8. What the hell is this? What the fuck did they do here? So let me start by saying that Nobume is easily one of the best Gintama characters, like top 8 in my opinion. Easily the second best female character right after Kagura. I think she's a well-written character especially in the Farewell Shinsengumi arc, where she definitely reached her peak, and I don't think anyone can disagree with it. So let's go and see what reasoning is for putting Nobume at number 8. Essentially raised to be an assassin, Imai Nobume's upbringing left her barely incapable of showing emotions. Gintama plays around a bit with the cliché of the emotionless former child killer who eventually becomes something of an ally to the heroes, giving Nobume a few childish quirks that make her slightly likable. Oh, nevertheless, as a character, Nobume's personality does not have a lot room for growth or expression. Outside of her effective antagonistic turn in the Baragaki arc, Nobume is mostly just a bait part player who just seems to exist within Gintama without adding much. So all of these are completely false since Nobume, uh, yes, she does become something of an ally to the heroes, but that's not because she realized her wrongdoings by herself. It was Shoyo Yoshida who inspired her. He was inspired by Yoshida because he told that people are born weak and we all work to basically just perfect our weaknesses and overcome them. So Nobume does have a lot of growth, especially in the in her backstory and also in the Farewell Shinsengumi arcs, where she does show emotion after Isaburo died. Then she just becomes this kind of samurai who helps Gintoki and Kagura, as seen in the Rakuyo arc and the Silver Soul War arc. But other than that, well, she is definitely in my top 8, and she is a great side character. Top 2 female characters in Gintama without a doubt. I disagree with their reasonings and with her placement. She does not deserve to be on this list. If anything, she should be in the top 10 best Gintama characters. So no, 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 no. I'm not doing this. Also, number 7 is Takechi Henpeita. I mean, yeah, definitely he's one of my least. He is personally my least favorite member of the Kiheitai, since he's overshadowed by, well, pretty much everyone except Nizo, who did not have that much significance aside from the Benizakura arc and then briefly appearing in the Silver Soul arc. So let's go. Putting aside one funny revelation about being a feminist, Takechi Henpeita just seemed to be weird for the sake of it. For the most part, Gintama manages to avoid reducing characters to quirks, especially ones that last more than one episode or two. Despite being one of the Kihei's most prominent members, Takechi is underdeveloped and typically used by only for cheap laughs and relating to his lolicon obsession. He's boring character in an anime that has very few of them. I agree that he's boring, but I wouldn't really put him that low. Takechi does have a decent double act with Kijima Matako, another Kiheitai extremist who is pretty forgettable. No, she pretty much is one of the most memorable Kiheitai extremist because she is, well, the only female in the Kiheitai. But then again, this guy pales in comparison to Matako, Bansai, and especially Takasugi. So, let's go. Also, Hosen's number 6. Yes, he is definitely written as a hateable character, but I will say that he is really good antagonist for the Yoshiwara arc. Unlike previous entries, Hosen was intended to be hated. Yeah, that's facts. At least to a certain extent. Known as the King of the Night, the powerful Yatta warrior went from being a space pirate to ruling Yoshiwara, a red light district, viewing most of the women of the area as little more than objects. Hosen did not take kindly to anyone who defied him, going as far as to essentially keep his courtesans captive. Hosen revealed a softer side to himself prior to his demise, but it primarily served to add layers to the character rather than to redeem him. Yes, you could say that, but he is a pretty well written antagonist for the Yoshiwara arc, and that arc is, well, easily the peak of Gintama's first season, since in that arc we are introduced to Tsukuyo, a really good female character, and the Hinoa and her son. And also Kamui, can't forget that man. But Hosen, good antagonist, but a hateable character. Yes, that definitely is a hateable character. His death also was pretty poetic, and I really like that. With Hinoa telling him about the sun. Yeah, I really don't think he deserves to be here since he was intended to be hated, and this is about the most hated characters. But then again, they added Nobume. In the fan base, Nobume is one of the most loved characters, so I think they're just being really inconsistent or just throwing random shit to clickbait people. So Otsu's number 5, Teraka Otsu. I mean, she as a female character and a character is pretty meh, but not bad. Decent at least. I like her, but she definitely is not what I consider to be a good or a well written character. Not bad, by any means. She is really likable. Not bad, but not great either. It's difficult to feel strongly about Terakadotsu, yeah, that's right. More of a plot device than a fully formed character. Also tend to bring out the best in the likes of Shinpachi while not necessarily contributing anything of significance on her own. While the Otsu arc is a highlight of the series and arguably to speak, she is still overshadowed by Shinpachi and Hijikata in its storyline. Yes, she is because that's not Otsu speak. Also speak, in my opinion, is without the doubt the Galaxy Kingdom Bitches 48 arc in the Sleep arc. So I'm guessing they either skip the Sleep arc or just forget it. Because there's no way Otsu arc is to speak. No. No. Ah. Otsu songs are pretty hilarious, even if her purposefully annoying singing is, well, annoying. I don't think it's annoying, I think it's pretty hilarious. I'm really apologizing for my pronunciation now, since I'm not a native speaker, but I don't think it's annoying. They just being really subjective here. That's subjective. That's not what I consider to be most hated, since in the Gintama fandom, I see many people actually liking Tsu's songs. So, what they did here, I especially disagree with the reasonings. Tokugawa Sada Sada. Yeah! Finally something good. I mean, he also, like Hosen, was written to be hated, but I hate this guy really freaking more than Hosen. At least Hosen was somewhat of a badass in his fights, but this guy, I mean, he doesn't really have that much of a redeeming qualities aside from being a well written character, which is a huge redeeming quality in my opinion. The 13th shogun, Tokugawa Sadasada, is Gintama's resident slimy politician, a character who walked over the corpses of enemies and allies en route to the throne. Sadasada is the definition of a cold-hearted antagonist, one who ordered hits on political rivals and then used a bluff courtesan as a shield to avoid repercussions. In the aftermath of the Yamatos' invasion of Gintama's Earth, Sarasara took advantage of the chaotic political climate to establish himself as Edo's ruler. Yes, yes, I agree. He is pretty much the most dislikable and hateable character in Gintama. Yeah, that's not exactly a thing I disagree with. I mean, they are speaking facts in only in this segment, since he really is a hateable character. But then again, I really respect this guy for being a very well written character, since, like Hosen, Sada Sada also was intended to be a character people hate, and was a good villain in the Curtainson of the Nation arc, which also had a really poetic end to Suzuran. So I will say that I agree that he is one of the most hated and pretty much one of the characters that actually deserve to be on this list. But in his defense, I will say that he is a well written character. Also, number three is Ensho. Introduced during the final saga of Gintama, the Silver Soul arc. Oh, so they have seen the Silver Soul arc. So I'm guessing they just skipped the sleep arc. Otherwise, they wouldn't. Otherwise, they wouldn't have said that Otsu's arc, Otsu arc is Otsu speak. No, they must have skipped it. Introducing during the final saga of Gintama, the Silver Soul arc, Ensho is a rare example of an antagonist in the anime who is not given time to properly find redemption, as if as if redemption was as if not having redemption makes him a bad antagonist. As a leader of the Altana Liberation Army, Ensho uses the power offered by this position to seek revenge for the destruction of his home planet. However, he also feels guilty about the death of a loved one and secretly wishes to commit suicide through combat. Yeah, definitely. He's really an asshole as he killed his older brother just to get to, you know, fuck his wife. And then just the entire planet got destroyed. So obviously I really hate this guy, but let's go. Despite being given a somewhat sympathetic backstory. What? Ensho's backstory was not sympathetic at all. In fact, it was the exact opposite of sympathetic. We weren't supposed to sympathize with this dude at all. No, we just weren't. Ensho is nearly always depicted as a selfish character who shows a complete disregard for his allies. Yeah, that's true. His death also is pretty poetic as he dies by the hands of Takasugi, one of the people he used to invade Earth, and him wanting to commit suicide through combat also has to have things with seeking redemption, since he considered combat as something that he escapes his troubles, but also makes but combat also makes him feel better. So it technically is a redemption for his like inner soul or spirit. Then again, I personally would have put him on this list, but for kind of different reasons. I disagree with some of their reasonings, especially with the backstory thing, but overall, I would put him on this list. So, I agree with this guy, but somewhat disagree with their reasonings. On number two is Otai. Listen, Altai is not bad character at all. In fact, I often feel the need to defend her from the haters, who come especially from the Ginsu shipping fandom. Altai is a character I respect. Like I said in my tier list video, Altai is really a hard-working person and a great older sister figure for Shinpachi. So I wouldn't put Altai on this list. No, not at all. She can be pretty irritable, but I really consider Altai to be one of the most respectable characters in the series. Altai is a simple woman with a simple goal of wanting to repair her family dojo. And to gain money, she decided to work as a cabaret girl. What's not to respect about her? Obviously, she has flaws, as all the Gintama characters have flaws. So let's see their reasoning. Gintama adapts its characters depending on an episode's tone, as the anime fluctuates from outlandish parody territory to violent shonen action. Surprisingly, the majority of the cast work well in both situations, allowing the comedy and action segments to highlight different facets of their personalities. Otai is somewhat of an exception. Tai Shimura hides a violent and destructive temper beneath a sweet smile, with her stalker Kondo often being the target of her outbursts. While this produced some laughs, Otai does not bring a lot else to the table in terms of humor, so Gintama ends up doubling down on her bossy nature to the detriment of the character. She also does not grow that much, especially for a secondary character who is quite prominent fixture in the series. Despite being shown as extremely strong in the comedy episodes, Otai is seldom depicted as a threat in more serious arcs. I mean, these things are pretty subjective in my opinion, as Otai also has some growth in arcs like the Yagyu arc or the Beam Saber arc. But other than that, I personally think the reason she is a well written character is mainly because of her simplicity of goals and motivations. Ota is a human character, one that I cannot hate at all. So no, 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 no. I feel like one of the main criticisms of her is being really violent to Gintoki and Kondo, but let's be honest, these two sometimes really deserve a small beating or punch, especially Kondo, because he is a stalker. If I were a woman and I had a man stalking on me, then I would probably do the same thing. I I feel like people often misunderstand Otai. No, she does not belong on this list. So, we are pretty much complete with this list. There is number one, so I want you to take a guess what is next. I seriously want to take a guess. Ready? Three, two, one, let's go. Oh my god. Utsu Utsuro is number one. Oh, you probably wouldn't guess this coming. Because everyone who has seen Gintama knows Utsuro is a well written character. Let me explain. The reason Utsuro is well written is because he represents the teams Gintama stand against. Not only the characters overcome their dark pasts and history, like Kintoki and Katsura, but Utsuro decided to seek revenge just like Takasugi did. Another thing, manga spoilers ahead, so feel free to skip few seconds. In the manga, in the final few chapters of the manga, one of the themes Utsuro embodies is fate, and that nothing can escape their own fate, which is a beautiful contrast to Gintoki's philosophy, as Gintoki believes that everyone can live beautifully to the end of their lives. So Utsuro is thematically a brilliant villain. He is a perfect final boss to Gintama, and I'd say he was one of the most deepest and complex characters in the series. Easily one of the greatest villains of all time. Arguably, as an antagonist, he works better than Takasugi, but Takasugi is much better as a character and a rival and foil to Gintoki. Utsuro is a better villain. The reason is the themes that he embodies. And his backstory is one of the most well done backstories for a final villain. Utsuro is a man who suffered for thousands of years, developing different personalities, some of which, one of which, that wanted to become a human. That was Shoyo Yoshida. Shoyo is a personality who atoned for the sins the previous personalities of Utsuro committed. But he was then taken hostage by Naraku, and in order to save him, Kintoki and Takasugi and Katsura went to fight the Amanto. Until Katsura and Takasugi were captured, and Gintoki killed Shoyo in order to save them, which caused him to become Utsuro again and seeking revenge for everyone, for this world that he considered cursed. Because no matter how he died, he wouldn't die, simply wouldn't die, and his suffering will continue. Utsuro is someone who wanted to die, but also wanted to take revenge for the people who made him suffer, for the planet Earth. Just not to endure his suffering, but the suffering of everyone. So Utsuro is easily top 6 Gintama characters, and easily one of the thematically most well written antagonists in the series. So let me see their reasoning. Gintama's ultimate antagonist, Utsuro, wears the face of Yoshida Shoyo, a kind teacher of Sakata Gintoki and Katsura Kotaro. Surprised they didn't even bother mentioning Takasugi here. Both born immortal, Utsuro was feared by humans and subjected to countless torments consequently. Utsuro created multiple personalities who endlessly spread slaughter and destruction. Utsuro seeks death. He begins a universe-spanning war that leaves planets destroyed, civilizations ruined, and countless dead in hopes of finding a way to end his own existence. He is Gintama's most hateable villain because of his actions lead to unforgivable consequences, and more importantly, he's not that compelling of a final villain. Okay, so this is cap. This is just false. I'm not taking this seriously at all, as they mentioned uh, most hateable villain because his actions lead to unforgivable consequences. What? He is a villain, so obviously his actions lead to unforgivable consequences. It's not like the villains are evil because they are villains. What did they expect him to be? So I'm guessing they all gonna hate the villains because, well, they are villains? What the fuck is this bullshit? What the fuck? He is not that compelling of a final villain. Ugh, fui. In fact, he is the perfect final villain for Gintama. I couldn't ask for anything better. Plot twist of him being Shoyo is one of the most well created plot twists. Not only in Gintama, but in all anime, period. That shit was fucking fire. So they used subjective reasons just to shit on Utsuro without even trying to analyze his character deeper. Because Utsuro is a character that I can write many pages of analyzing his character and his personality. He is one of the deepest characters in Gintama, without a doubt. In fact, I still consider this guy to be a better villain than Takasugi. And obviously, Takasugi is a better character, but Utsuro's arguably a better villain. So, no, also, how the hell is Utsuro worse than Catherine or worse than Hata, worse than Takechi Henpeita? How in the world? This does not make sense at all, which is the reason why people nowadays don't take CBR's list seriously. I mean, just take a look at videos on from other YouTubers like The Masked Man or Sway Kage. You can see other shit lists of this site there. So that pretty much wraps the whole list. I seriously want to see who made this list. So, well, it's not down there, maybe it's up there. Mark Samet, published May 1st, 2020. So this was pretty much a year ago. So, dear Mark Samet, if you're reading this, here's my final message for you. Just stop writing about Gintama. No, stop it. You're not funny. You're definitely not funny. So, that pretty much wraps the whole thing. And I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time. Bye bye.